California and Deputy Whip of the Congressional Progressive Caucus. Plenty to discuss. Congressman, thanks for being back on the show. Good afternoon.
Hallie, great to be back on.
Let me just dispatch with this quickly here, because this vote coming up in the next couple of hours will be to raise the debt ceiling. Given what you've said in the past, safe to say you're a yes here?
I am a yes. I expect the entire Democratic caucus will be a yes. I hope some Republicans will do the right thing.
Let's talk about then, and that isn't a question of how Republicans will vote. We'll find out soon. Let me ask about the sort of broader issue right now facing your party, which are the negotiations over this big climate and social spending bill, right? We know that there was that call this afternoon, among progressives. Speaker Pelosi said she's disappointed Democrats will have to lower their price tag, but that seems to be where this is heading. Are you comfortable? Are you prepared to accept roughly $2 trillion as the top line? We'll get into the policies, but as the top line, you good with $2 trillion?
I'm prepared to accept less than $3.5 trillion. I mean, we have to figure out what that number is, but I understand it's going to be significantly less. But we need the programs: child care, universal preschool, giving seniors dental benefits, vision benefits. These are extraordinarily popular, and my concern is that these stay in, even if we're doing them for less years.
Are you not concerned about the potential cliff aspect of this, something that the House Speaker raised earlier this afternoon, that if you do them for fewer years, you just create these cliffs where you then have to bring up funding again? Institutions can't rely on that money like they would if it was longer term.
Cliff is something people talk about in the Beltway. Most people outside the Beltway say, give us child care, give us paid family leave, let seniors have dental care, and then we can argue in 2024 whether those programs should continue. So we just should speak simply and plainly. Here's what we're going to deliver. We're going to deliver it as long as we can, and if the Republicans try to take it away, well, we can fight another presidential election over it.
One of the things that we've talked about a lot on the show are the actual policies that are in this, right? There's a lot of attention to that top line number. It seems like many Americans know the spending or the proposed spendings, not so much the policies, right? Some of these policies you've mentioned, universal pre-K, child care subsidies, those are in many ways, and our First Read newsletter laid it out this morning very well, intertwined, right? The model works when you have both of them, right? So how do you find that cut? Like, you got to cut something, right? So how do you do it if the model falls apart, if you don't have some of these things twinned together?
Hallie, I appreciate that. I mean, you're absolutely right. You need the comprehensive policy when it comes to childcare. You need to make sure that every American kid, when they're 3 years old, can get education. They do that in France very, very successfully, in many other countries. And you also need to make sure that parents who are working have some support so that they can send their kids to preschool. And you need to make sure if someone falls sick that they're able to look after their kids. So this is all about giving kids a fair shot starting out. And I guess people who want to cut programs, the burden is on them to say, what is it that they want to cut? That's why I think it's much easier to say, if we have budget constraints, let's do it for less years, and then let's take the case to the American people.
Well, take us behind the scenes in negotiations then. What are you hearing from the Speaker's office as to what she wants to cut?
We haven't heard. She says she doesn't want to cut any of the programs, and that's why I believe that the logical compromise will be around reducing the years. It seems to me that is the easiest thing, given that off the charts, all of these programs poll very well. The American people want programs that are going to help their kids, that are going to help seniors, that are going to help them to pay for college. But the two senators that are the holdout are the real issue still. We still don't know what Senator Sinema wants, and until that goes forward, it's very hard to come to a deal.
One other potential compromise, right, or a piece of this could be the idea of means testing, which is another word we use inside the Beltway, people outside of it, somewhat irrelevant, but basically the idea that you focus these programs towards the lowest income Americans, right? Reasonable option to you, or is that a deal breaker? I get that's not your first choice. I get that's not your second choice. Is it a deal breaker or not?
Hallie, it's reasonable for certain things. If you're saying that the earned income tax credit should go to working families and not the rich, I agree. If you're saying that the child tax credit should get phased out, well, it already is, and we can discuss where it should get phased out. Is that $200,000, $150,000? I'm willing to look at that. But if you're saying that we shouldn't have universal pre-K or universal community college, I say no. There's some things that we're in it together. I'm glad that K through 12 education isn't means tested in this country, and you can have rich kids with working class kids in the same public school. Some things shouldn't be means tested. So it depends on what the program is.
Before I let you go quickly, we heard from Jake Sherman, a friend of the show, just before you came on the air, who suggested unlikely that this October 31st deadline is going to be met. Your assessment?
Who am I to contradict Jake Sherman? I mean, he's got a better insight on the process, but
right.
I do think August, it's difficult. It's difficult. I think end of the year is more realistic.
All right. Nice ad for Punch Bowl there, Congressman Khanna. Thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. I know there's a lot.